essence is the heroic surrender. And it's just a surrender to what is. It's a surrender of agenda and ego and idea, and it's just a surrender to what is. And when you can surrender to yourself and acknowledge it all and come to peace with it and learn to integrate it, then you're positioned to come into harmony with the world around you.
And what I love also as I read the book, it was a kind of a common feeling actually throughout your book was how you really emphasized to be gentle within the process of growth and being gentle with oneself as we are going through shifts and transformations and evolutions. And I found that, we say it or we hear it, however, it's one of those concepts that may be foreign to people because they're so caught up on the rat race of the revolving wheel that they really don't know what that sense of peace is within themselves. So it's almost like a foreign concept.
Yeah,
but to be...
No,
go ahead. I was just going to finish up and just say, that there's that piece of really being gentle as we're moving through the transformation, but that's also the tapping in of the feminine essence, and that too can be a foreign concept.
Yeah.
Is there a way we can embrace that with especially a male dominant culture?
The essence of our female consciousness is one that comes into relationship, and gentleness. The essence of gentleness is it's a two-way conversation. If you're gently moving a baby's arm, you have totally come into relationship with where the baby's at, with every sensitivity you can muster. You're working with the baby. And gentleness, in that way, gentleness is like grace, which is a two-way conversation. A dancer achieves grace through a sensitivity to the movement and space in the other dancers. If you look at those what we traditionally think of as female attributes, they're all attributes that bespeak relationship. So once you understand your disconnect, then you understand your need for relationship. And then you understand your need for sensitivity, because you can't come into relationship without sensitivity. And once you open your heart to the world, and once you sensitize yourself to the energy of the world and the pulse that lies beneath the stillness of the present, everything changes. It's like beauty. When you sense beauty, there are at least two aspects to that. One is you're sensing an organic whole, whether it's the beauty of a sunset or the beauty of a flower petal, and the other is you're sensing life. To just feel the beauty of the moment you are at this second privileged to participate in is to come into relationship with it as a living whole. And that enables you to be gentle with it and gentle with yourself.
That's helpful. And I want to encourage everyone to use the elevator exercise, because that is a really good tool. Now you wrote this book, and you wrote this book based out of workshops that you do, and you do workshops for also on a corporate level. How have you seen this book transform the average person in regard to your workshops or in reading the book or in using the book? Because this is, I know that the people who will be migrated to buying and getting this are people who are seeking and seeking to evolve within themselves.
It's been absolutely wonderful. I got an email from a woman in Tulsa, Oklahoma, who has read the book, and she says everything is so much easier. And what she means by that is she's learned what it is to come to rest in the pelvic bowl. The book has encouraged her and given her the tools to basically do the elevator shaft to the extent where that's accessible to her. And she said, things that would have upset me or sent me into anxiety, now it's just so easy. So I find that hugely encouraging, that because you worry, writing a book, you've got words on paper. Basically all it is ideas, except when I was writing it, more important to me than the actual words on the paper was always the rhythm of the lines that were written. So there's that's wonderful, and then the workshops. I've got a workshop coming up in a week in Toronto, and early April in Chicago, and later in Rhode Island, and I'm like a pig in mud at these things. I just love them, and they're what's rewarding is how deeply transformative they are, and the nature of the workshop. It happens over a weekend, and I've learned that you don't achieve real transformation without experiencing confusion. And so I basically lead very gently participants into an encounter with divisions that they're carrying around in their own bodies. The way they've divided themselves from the breath, the way they've divided themselves from the energy of the legs, all these things, and so they encounter these divisions, which takes a certain amount of courage and belief, faith, I guess, and then bring them back out the other side, and something has shifted in them, something has changed, and I always, after a workshop, I get emails. I'm still. I guess a week ago, I got an email from someone who'd taken a workshop a month and a half ago, and that's just, for me, the biggest reward, to know that the work lives on in these people, and the seeds, grow roots and sprout and really shift things for people.
Right, and the rippling effect of how they interact with everybody else, and how that reaction is transformative to everyone who it touches. So it's, these workshops that you do, and the information that you provide in New Self, New World in the book, you've offered people not only an ability to kind of understand themselves, but you've offered them themselves back to themselves by providing these exercises and these tools to really tap in. And they're very easily accessible. It's not something that is going to be over anyone's head in doing or in trying. And it's definitely, from my experience, extremely effective and very transformative. And we have about 5-6 minutes left, and I'm wondering what you would like to offer. We've covered a lot, but there's so much more in this book. If you were to give our listeners your wisdom in a nutshell, what would you provide?
Our culture has such an alienating relationship with the body, and for me, all the ideas in the world are no substitute for an embodied experience. So the elevator shaft is one thing, but there's so many aspects to just pay attention to the breath dropping into the body and releasing out, and just noticing how you diminish your breath, and noticing it without judgment, noticing it just, oh, that's interesting. And I find as soon as you bring awareness to something that has remained in the shadow, you've already begun to change it. And to soften into that place of embodiment is to soften into your own sensitivity. And once you soften into your own sensitivity, you become more intelligent. You become more aware. And suddenly, pressures and crises that were threatening, you realize, well, they were threatening because I was so imbalanced, so out of harmony that they just threw me for a loop. And then you learn, no. The center of my being is down in the pelvic bowl. And once you make friends with that, and once you learn how to drop into that place, your security of being is always there waiting for you. And the things that drive us, the anxieties, the cravings, the need for control, all these are issues that arise because we've lost our security of being, our security of being here now in the present. And to recover that is just such a gift.
And that is a beautiful gift. And that's, there's such truth in the simplicity of breath, and yet, many people take it for granted. As we're moving through these shifts and this transition, and we're becoming more aware of ourselves and our feelings and our sensitivity within ourselves, is there also a possibility that relationships in our lives would change? That maybe we might see a relationship that's no longer serving our higher self? Maybe there's a shift around people. Could it be that there would be a migration of, or more of a draw towards people that you would resonate with on a higher level or a higher vibration once you move through the shift? Could that also come into play?
I think so. I think that the other side of that is that when you find that place of inner peace, you bring your relationships along with you. If you can walk into a room and you're completely grounded, the room changes, it shifts. Everyone else becomes a little more grounded. But that when you start on that path to connecting with your being in that way, the doors start to open up because you're suddenly sensitive to what the world is asking from you. And when you're sensitive to what the world is asking from you, you see all the ways in which it's helping you to make that possible. And many of those ways are people who, as you say, vibrate at the same frequency, people who share that heart pulse of joy and energy and hope. Absolutely.
Yes, that's wonderful. Philip, this has been a wonderful, wonderful show. I've absorbed everything you've said, and it's almost like reading the book again. But this has been a wonderful experience for our listeners to get such incredible wisdom to really help with their transformations and their change. Can we provide the listeners how they can get a hold of you, your website?
I'd love that.
They can find New Self, New World at Amazon.com. Is there? Please provide us with your
the website
your contact
is pretty
information.
simple. Yeah, it's philipshepherd.com. Now, there are lots of spellings to that. Philip is with one L, Philip, and Shepherd is like the guy who looks after sheep. So it's SHEPHERD, philipshepherd.com. And there's lots of stuff on the website they might enjoy. They can download the introduction to the book and have a read and see how that sits with them, and lots of other stuff.
Oh, wonderful.
Information about workshops and. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful.